Then you can go to Facebook and live. Let's get phones on silent. You'll put your phone. All right. Thumb to the brothers, Yahweh Shamar Alatham, sisters. I am Priest and Officer Shargapan, holding class down for the Brotherhood class. Every Tuesday, all across the globe, it is the Brotherhood class. And today's no different. Right here, Tuesday, 7:20. And today's class is titled Loving Heathens Destroys Brotherhood. And brotherhood, of course, is synonymous with sisterhood. So, in essence, loving heathens will destroy us, as a nation, will destroy us as a brotherhood, as a sisterhood, as a people. All right? So I'm just checking the chat. Everyone, you can go ahead to sign in for attendance, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. All right? Just make sure you post the attendance on the Facebook link, all right? The water. Okay. Give everyone a few moments. Make sure you guys have your notebooks, your Bibles, your pens, your pencils, whatever you need to take efficient and proper notes. And again, today's class is titled Loving Heathens Will Destroy Brotherhood. So if you have any questions on this topic, feel free to write your questions in. Yep.
It's not letting me post the attendance.
Turn the screen over. Bubba shot. Hit enter. Or the return button. You know, the enter button right there. There you go. No sweat, brother. All right. So today we're going to start with Deuteronomy chapter 7. All right.
The book of Deuteronomy.
Hold on one second, Salakia. Let's 34. Exodus chapter 34, right? We're going to start at verse 11. Start at verse 10, Salakia. So we're in Exodus chapter 34, verse 10.
The book of Exodus chapter 34, verse 10. And he said, Behold, I make a covenant before all thy people, I will do marvels.
So God, the Most High, is making a covenant with the people of Israel, right? And part of this covenant, the Lord is saying that He was going to do marvels in His door. He's going to do marvels. He was going to do great works, right? To be able to keep this covenant and hold this covenant with the nation of Israel. And this is true because we can see the covenant and the Lord's power of keeping the covenant through the marvels of the plagues that he hit Egypt with, from the frogs, toads that came out of the river, to the boils that popped up on everyone's skin, to the firstborn of everything being killed throughout the night, right? All these marvels, such as splitting the Red Sea, having a pillar of fire guide us through the wilderness at night, and a cloud guide us through the day. All these marvels that we have witnessed, the Lord has done it to keep that covenant, to make us aware of the covenant and our end of this covenant, right? We give us a few moments for the officer to come back. What's going on? Shalom.
From the top.
No, just pick up after marbles.
Such as have not been done in all the earth, nor in any nation, and all the people among which thou art shall see the work of the Most High.
And right, the Lord was going to do works on the earth that have never been seen before, that no nation have ever witnessed before, right? And everyone on the earth was going to see the work of the Lord coming through. We're in Exodus chapter 34, verse 10. Right? The Lord was going to show the world his power. The Lord was going to show just how powerful and real he is compared to all the fake gods and fake idols of the heathens. Right? Keep going.
For it is a terrible thing that I will do with thee.
Right?
Verse 11. Observe thou that which I command thee this day.
Right? And the Lord wants us to observe his commandments, to keep his commandments, to keep his statutes, because if we fail to uphold the Lord's laws, statutes, and commandments, then it will be a terrible thing the Lord does by bringing punishment and destruction onto Israel. And all we have to do to avoid this is keep his laws, statutes, and commandments, and he will show the heathens all the wonders of his power, of his might, because he's keeping the covenant to us, Israel, when we keep his commandments, when we obey him, right? Keep going.
Behold, I drive out before thee the Amorite, and the Canaanite, and the Hittite, and the Perizzite, and the Hivite, and the Jebusite.
So the Lord, right, all we got to do is keep his commandments, and he will move nations out of our way. He would have nations fall to us, right? He would have us take their lands for ourselves. Keep going.
Verse 12. Take heed to thyself, lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land.
Stop. And the Lord is telling us for us to take heed to thyself. We need to make sure we do what we're supposed to do. Being brotherly to one another is what we're supposed to do. Being sisterly to one another is what we're supposed to do. This is one way we can keep the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High God, by having brotherhood and sisterhood. And with that, it means for us to treat each other according to the law. Treat each other how we would want our brother and sister to treat us. So if I don't want someone to murder me, I wouldn't want to murder someone else. If I don't want someone selling my kids drugs, then I wouldn't want to sell another person's child drugs. We need to take heed to thyself, take heed to ourselves, and pay attention to what we're supposed to be doing. Keep going.
Whither thou goest, lest it be for a snare.
Read it again. Salaki, read that verse again.
Concert. Verse 12. Take heed to thyself, lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land.
Because if we fail to observe the law, statutes, and commandments of God, if we fail to be brotherly and sisterly to each other, We would end up making covenants with the heathens. We would end up loving the heathens. We would love what they do, which means we would love to use drugs and sell drugs to each other. We would love to have disgusting fornication like the heathens do, which means being homosexuals, being pedophiles, being engaging in bestiality, things like that. That's not brotherly. That's not sisterly for us to do to one another. But the heathens, this is what the heathens do. And if we didn't take heed to ourselves and keep the laws, statutes, and commandments of God, we would end up making agreements and falling into love with the heathens, which would destroy our brotherhood, which would destroy our sisterhood, which will get us to trespass the laws of God. Keep going.
Whither thou goest, lest there be for a snare in the midst of thee.
And this was going to be a snare. This was going to be a trap. This was going to be our downfall if we decided to bond with the heathens. If we decided to love the heathens. Keep going.
Verse 13. But ye shall destroy their altars.
But we're supposed to destroy their altars because their gods mean absolutely nothing. Their gods are fake. But more importantly, by destroying their altars, we're acknowledging that there's only one true power, and that's the Most High God. We're not going to allow our brothers and sisters to fall victim to false gods and false religions and false beliefs like Christianity and Catholicism and Buddhism and Islam. Keep going.
Break their images.
And break their images, because the image of a white Jesus Christ is a false image. And many of our brothers and sisters have been tricked into thinking that that is the true image of Christ. They have been tricked into thinking that God is a white man. Keep going.
And cut down their groves.
And we were to destroy all their groves, all their places of worship, right? Because there's only one place where we worship, and that's in our temples. There's only one power that we worship, and that is the Most High. We don't go into groves and worship the God of the trees and the God of the winds and the God of good harvest and the God of being able to grow corn the best. We don't worship those fake gods. So it is brotherly and sisterly to destroy these altars, to destroy these images, to burn down these groves. Keep going.
Verse 14. For thou shalt worship no other God.
Say it again.
For thou shalt worship no other God.
Because it is brotherly to show our people that there's only one God that we need to worship. Slakia, let me rephrase that better. It is brotherly and sisterly to show and prove to our brothers and sisters, to all blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, that there is only one real God on the earth. There is only one real power on the earth. And only that one God, only that one power deserves to be worshipped. And that is the God of Israel, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of our forefathers. Keep going.
For the Most High, whose name is jealous, is a jealous power.
Now, sidebar, the Lord's name is not jealous. It's just a title, right? It's giving him the characteristic that he is jealous when we decide to take our love that's supposed to go only to him and give it and spread it to fake gods that have no power. Right? Keep going.
Verse 15. Lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, and they go a-whoring after their gods.
Because if we end up by not worshiping our God, we'll end up loving the heathens. By not loving our brothers and by not loving our sisters, we'll end up loving the heathens. And again, loving heathens will destroy brotherhood. Loving heathens will destroy sisterhood. So when we love these heathens, we end up loving what they love. We end up doing what these disgusting heathens do, right? White people love Christianity and Catholicism, and they worship a white Jesus. When we don't have real brotherhood and real sisterhood, Black, Hispanic, and Native American people hate each other. And we love white people. And we love their religion of Christianity. And we love their image of a fake Jesus Christ who they paint as white. Therefore, we look at white people as godly when they're disgusting, unrighteous, far from being godly. Keep going.
And do sacrifice unto their gods.
And we would go whoring after their gods. We would whore ourselves like a woman would whore herself to a man at a prostitute house. We would give ourselves willingly for cheap. We would be bought, right? Which destroys brotherhood. We would sacrifice onto these gods. We would give these gods our love and our attention and our affection when their gods are meaningless. Their gods are not real. Their gods have no power. But this is what happens when we decide to love heathens. It destroys us as a nation. It destroys us as a people. It destroys our brotherhood and sisterhood that we're supposed to have for one another. Keep going.
And one call thee, and thou eat of his sacrifice. Verse 16. And thou take of their daughters unto thy sons.
And when we love heathens, right, we end up hating when Black, Hispanic, and Native American men hate Black, Hispanic, and Native American women. What do? Read it again.
And thou take of their daughters unto thy sons.
When we hate our own women, we end up loving the women of these disgusting heathens. That's why we see Black, Hispanic, and Native American men in love and having sex and marrying white women, Asian women, African women, Middle Eastern, Arabic women, East Indian women, women from Bangladesh and Pakistan, and from Ghana and Timbuktu, and from Switzerland and France. We end up marrying women from New Zealand and Australia, and from China and South Korea. We end up loving all these disgusting, strange women when we hate our own women. Keep going.
And the daughters go a whoring after their gods, and make thy sons go a whoring after their gods.
And by loving these heathen women, right, we give space for these heathen women to influence our sons, our people, to worship false gods. If you are a real brother, you won't love a heathen woman. If you are a real Black, Hispanic, and Native American man, you love only Black, Hispanic, and Native American women. You do not love white women. You do not love Asian women. You do not love African women or Arab women. You don't love any other type of woman that isn't from your family tree, that isn't from among your sisters, Black, Hispanic, and Native American women, right? Because when you love these heathen women, they trick and influence and promote your sons, our children, to worship these fake gods, to love these fake gods, to love the gods of the heathens when we're supposed to love our own God, because that's the only true God on the earth. You want to say something, brother?
So like, I think if I may, the applicable word is more lust in it, if I'm not mistaken.
If you want to use lust, go ahead, use lust. But some men love these women like they would love a sister, right? Keep going.
Verse 17.
No, actually, no, you can stop there, right? So when we love heathens, it ends up causing us to hate our own women. When we love heathens, it ends up forcing us to hate our own men, right? That's why you see Black, Hispanic, and Native American men bad mouthing and dogging out Black, Hispanic, and Native American men. You see them with white men and Arab men, right? You see Black, Hispanic, and Native American men with white women, with Asian women, right? Because we hate our own people. We destroyed our brotherhood and our sisterhood by not obeying the Lord, which opened up the doorways for us to love these disgusting heathens and worship their own gods. Worship the gods that they believe are real, that they believe have power when they don't. All right? Let's go to the book of Numbers, chapter 25. And we're going to start at verse 1, all right? Let's give everyone a few moments to get there. Let me just check the chat real quick. Let's see. To all the brothers and sisters that have joined the class, Shalom. Yahweh B'Shem Shai B'Katam. Yahweh Shema Alatam B'Shem Yashai. All right. Let me check Facebook real quick. Okay, let's continue. We're at Numbers chapter 25. We're going to start at verse 1.
Book of Numbers, chapter 25, verse 1. And Israel abode in Shittim, and the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab.
And here we are again, disobeying the laws, statutes, and commandments of God, and lusting, as the brother would like to use, loving these heathen women. Israel ends up committing whoredom with the daughters of Moab, the so-called Chinese, right? We end up loving them, falling in love with them, sleeping with them, having sex with them, having children with them, right? And as we just learned from Exodus chapter 34, we just learned what happens when we end up committing whoredom, when we end up loving the heathens, right? Keep going.
Verse 2. And they called the people unto the sacrifices of their gods.
And exactly what Exodus chapter 34 just told us not to do and what would happen if we did it is unfolding right here in Numbers 25. We end up falling in love with the daughters of Moab. And now our men, our people, are giving sacrifices to the gods of Moab, which are fake gods, which have no power. Right? Keep going.
And the people did eat and bow down to their gods.
And this is how we make the Lord jealous. Because we're bowing down, we're giving sacrifices to fake gods. We're allowing our people who are not committing whoredom, who are not loving the heathens, we're allowing them to see us bow down to fake gods, sleeping with women from different cultures, or from different races of people. Right? Keep going.
Verse 3. And Israel joined himself unto Baal Peor.
And this is what ended up happening. We ended up forgetting about our Lord, the real power of it, the real power on earth, the power of Israel, and we ended up joining and believing onto this fake god called Baal Peor, the god of these Moabites that has no power, that has no might, that's never done any type of miracles or marvels on the earth, all because we loved these heathens. All because we didn't love ourselves enough. Right? Keep going.
And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel.
Read that again.
And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel.
And if you remember from last class, when the Lord's anger is kindled against Israel, there's some drastic and terrible and horrific things that happen. Right? The Lord can decide to kill all of us. The Lord can decide to have the earth split open and swallow us all up. The Lord can have us all die of poisoning, of hunger, starvation, thirst. Can have us fall in great numbers whenever we go to war. Can have our enemies come around us and destroy us and slay us by the edge of the sword, right? Just like in 2021. We want to not obey God's laws, statutes, and commandments right here in Yonkers and Harlem and Brooklyn and Spring Valley and Nyack and Haverstraw, right? And we end up loving these strange women. We end up wanting to love the women from India. We end up wanting to love the women from China and Vietnam. We end up wanting to love the women from Italy and from Switzerland and from England, right? And next thing you know, we're worshiping their gods. We're all up in Christianity. We're all up in Islam. We're all up in Buddhism. We're trying to be more spiritual and worship the elements, right? All this BS and nonsense. And that's why we're destroyed today. That's why the brotherhood and sisterhood of Black, Hispanic, and Native American men and women outside of the I.S.U.P.K. has been obliterated, has been shattered. Because we sell drugs to each other, which we get from loving the heathens. We engage in homosexuality and lesbianism and pedophilia and bestiality, which we get from loving the heathens. We murder each other, which we get from loving the heathens because they murder each other all the time. Keep going.
Verse 4, and the Most High said unto Moses, take all the heads of the people.
Say it again.
Take all the heads of the people.
And this is what happens when you don't want to be brotherly. This is what happens when you don't want to be sisterly. This is what happens when you don't want to obey the laws that God gave us, so that way we can keep our brotherhood strong, to keep our sisterhood strong, to keep our nation strong. The Lord is going to tell our leader to do what?
Take all the heads of the people.
So now we're going to have to suffer. We're going to have to be punished because we didn't want to love each other. We wanted to love the heathens. We're going to be put to death because we didn't want to love God. We wanted to love the gods of these heathens that we love. Keep going.
And hang them up before the Most High.
And do them what?
And hang them up before the Most High.
So now Moses is given instructions to cut the heads off of the people. Chop our heads off and hang them up so the Lord can see. Keep going.
Against the sun, that the fierce anger of the Most High may be turned away from Israel.
And by chopping off our heads, what will happen?
That the fierce anger of the Most High may be turned away from Israel.
By obeying the law, statutes, and commandments of God, we would have to obey God and do what?
That the fierce anger of the Lord may be turned away from Israel.
To rebuild and reestablish brotherhood and sisterhood amongst Israel, our heads were supposed to be chopped off and hung up for the Lord to see. In order for what?
That the fierce anger of the Most High may be turned away from Israel.
Moses had to do this, had to cut our heads off and hang them up for the Lord to see. So that way, the entire nation of Israel can be spared from the destruction of the Lord, from the wrath of the Lord, right? Because we all know what the Lord can do. We all know his marvels. We all know the great miracles he can do. And we've also seen the horrific and scary and terrible works he's capable of as well when we disobey. So to prevent all of Israel from being to prevent all of Israel from being killed and put to death and suffering, Moses had to be a good brother and carry out punishment. So that way all of Israel wouldn't suffer. That way all of Israel wouldn't be put to death. Keep going.
Verse 5. And Moses said unto the judges of Israel, slay ye everyone his men that were joined unto Baal-peor.
And since we wanted to love the heathens, we end up loving their gods. And this great brother named Moses loved the Lord more than he loved these heathens. Loved the Lord more than he loved to watch his people continue to worship these fake gods. He loved the Lord so much that he was willing to kill his own brothers and sisters for disobeying God, for serving and worshiping false gods, for loving the heathen. Keep going.
Verse 6. And behold, one of the children of Israel came and brought unto his brethren a Midianitish woman, in the sight of Moses.
And as Moses and the judges were killing all the people that love these disgusting heathens, these Moabites, these Chinese men and women who love their Chinese God, their fake Chinese God, as we're being put to death for this, a very unbrotherly and disrespectful and ungodly brother of ours decided to bring a heathen woman from another nation amongst the congregation, amongst the children of Israel, because this man also loved heathens. Even though he wasn't loving the Moabite heathens, he was loving a Midianitish heathen. And he brought this woman in the sight of Moses. He brought this disgusting heathen woman who he loved amongst his own people, who at the same time were being put to death for loving the Moabite people and loving their fake gods. Keep going.
And in the sight of all the congregation of the children of Israel, who were weeping before the door of the tabernacle of the congregation.
Listen, our people are getting their heads chopped off in front of their loved ones and being hung up, all because we wanted to love the heathens and love their gods who we willingly accepted because we love the heathens. You know, men can be very weak when it comes to women. We sacrifice and compromise when it comes to women, when we don't love our own God first.
Right.
When we don't love our own brothers and our own sisters first. We fall victim. Sorry, we don't, I'm gonna take that back. We don't fall victim. We fall into the snares set by the heathens that we love. And one of those is loving their gods. Because our men love these strange women. They love these heathen women. They think there's something exotic or something beautiful to want and desire, that we end up giving up who we are to satisfy these disgusting women, these Chinese women, these Japanese women, these Vietnamese and Taiwanese, these Italian and French and English and Spaniard women, these women from Ghana and the Congo and Nigeria and Egypt, these disgusting Arabs, right? We end up compromising who we are for these women. Keep going.
Verse 7. And when Phineas.
Who?
And when Phineas.
Who's Phineas? Keep going on.
The son of Eleazar. The son of Aaron.
Now Phineas, his grandfather was Aaron, Moses' brother, the high priest. Phineas comes from a great line of priesthood, right? Keep going.
The priest saw it.
When Phineas saw his fellow brother bring a heathen woman who he loved amongst the people, while the people were being put to death for loving another heathen people, loving another heathen God, Phineas saw this disrespect that this brother had. Phineas saw this lack of brotherhood. How dare you bring a heathen woman into the congregation of Israel amongst the people? Well, our people are being put to death for loving heathen women and worshiping their gods. Keep going.
He rose up.
He did what?
He rose up.
He rose up. He got off his ass. He got off his feet. He saw what was happening and he decided to take action and he got up. Keep going.
From among the congregation.
Keep going.
And took a javelin.
And took a what?
A javelin.
He took a javelin. That's a weapon that's used for throwing. Think of it as a smaller version of a spear. Right? Keep going.
In his hand.
He got up, grabbed this javelin in his hand. Keep going.
Verse 8. And he went after the man of Israel.
He did what?
And he went after the man of Israel.
And he went after his brother. Because this man of Israel lacked brotherhood. He didn't care that his people were being put to death before his eyes. He didn't care that his brothers and sisters were being put to death for loving the heathens. This Israelite didn't care that his brothers and sisters were being put to death for worshiping a fake god. He was so busy loving his own heathen that he didn't care about what was happening. So Phineas went after him with a javelin in his hand. Keep going.
And he went after the man of Israel into the tent.
Into where?
Into the tent.
Because the man didn't bring this Midianitish woman into his tent for no reason. Let's be real. You bring a shorty home, you know what's about to go down. Y'all about to get intimate. Y'all about to have sex. Y'all about to do the nasty. And this disrespectful, unbrotherly Israelite man brought this heathen woman into his tent so that way he can get some skins. That way he can get some buns. He didn't care that his people were being put to death for loving heathens and loving their gods. He was busy about loving his own heathen. Keep going.
And thrust both of them through.
He did what?
And thrust both of them through.
So Phineas took that javelin and he put that javelin through both of them. Keep going.
The man of Israel and the woman through her belly.
So think about it. This should let you know that they're in the middle of having sex. The woman is laying on her back and the Israelite man is on top of her. Phineas didn't give a damn about what they were doing. All he knew is that what his brother was doing was worthy of death. Because he lacked brotherhood. He wouldn't care about his brothers that were being put to death and having their heads chopped off. He didn't care about all the women crying because their sons and fathers and whatnot and uncles were being put to death outside. He took that javelin, put it through the Israelite man's back, and put it through that heathen woman's belly, her stomach, while in the middle of them handling their business, doing whatever disgusting fornication that man was doing. He had no regard for his brothers that were being slain outside his tent. He had no regard for the crying women that he walked by, holding the hand of that Midianitish woman as he led her into his tent. And thank the Lord for Phineas for being the brother that he was, for being enraged that a brother of his can be so disrespectful and lack brotherhood where they don't care about his other brothers that are being put to death, where he didn't care about his sisters that were crying because of all the death that was happening amongst the people. Phineas loved the Lord more than he loved his brother, which is why Phineas was able to righteously carry out a punishment on his brother. Keep going.
So the plague was stayed from the children of Israel.
What?
So the plague was stayed from the children of Israel.
Listen, by Phineas loving the Lord more than he loved his brother, he was able to do what? Go ahead, read it again.
So the plague was stayed from the children of Israel.
Phinehas had so much brotherhood. Phinehas had so much sisterhood that he could not allow this Israelite man to get away with loving this heathen woman and sleeping with this heathen woman while his other brothers and sisters were being put to death, while his other brothers and sisters were crying because of the death that was taking place, while his brothers and sisters were being punished for loving heathen, for loving the gods of these heathens. He wasn't going to allow that to happen. And because he did the brotherly thing, he was able to stop the plague that the Lord had running. He was able to help put an end to the plague that the Lord cast over all Israel, which was the destruction and death of us. Imagine if Phinehas never had done this, Moses probably would have kept on chopping the heads off of our people until there was nothing left but Moses and the other judges. Keep going.
Verse 9. And those that died in the plague were 24,000.
And there were 24,000 people that were put to death because they wanted to love heathens. They did not want to love their brothers. They didn't want to love their sisters. But they chose to love heathens, which destroyed brotherhood, because it led them to worship fake gods. It caused them to have 24,000 Israelites put to death, have their heads chopped off, have their heads hung. I have a wild ass imagination. I don't know about you, YAHANNA. I don't know about you, Mapataza, but I can imagine our heads being chopped off, being put on top of a spike, on top of a spear, being stuck into the ground, facing the east facing the sun on some Dracula type shit. You know what I'm saying? Salakia for my language. On some Dracula type thing. When Vlad the Impaler was impaling everyone and sticking them on the spears into the ground, that's what I'm imagining. Our heads being chopped off for the lack of brotherhood, for the lack of sisterhood that we have. Our heads being put on spikes for loving heathens and not loving each other. Being put to death because we wanted to love the fake gods of heathen people instead of loving our own God. And Phinehas did the right thing. Moses did the right thing. Because without them obeying the Lord, keeping his statutes, keeping his laws, keeping his commandments, without them obeying the Lord, our people would have kept being lost, kept being destroyed, would have further destroyed brotherhood, would have further destroyed sisterhood, would have caused greater plagues from the Lord to take over Israel. Keep going.
Verse 10. And the Most High spake unto Moses, saying, verse 11, Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest, hath turned my wrath away from the children of Israel.
Phinehas did what a good brother is supposed to do. Keep the law, statutes, and commandments of the Lord. Right? And he carried out punishment to his brothers and sisters who disobeyed the Lord. Keep going.
While he was zealous for my sake among them, that I consume not the children of Israel and my jealousy.
He was so zealous. He was so gung-ho for loving the Lord, for keeping the Lord's statutes, commandments, and laws, for keeping this brotherhood, that he went and did an action that stopped the Lord from killing everyone, that stopped the Lord for putting all of Israel to death. Real brotherhood, real sisterhood is not possible without first loving the Lord. Real brotherhood, real sisterhood among Black, Hispanic, and Native American men and women is not possible without first obeying the Lord. Keep going.
Verse 12. Wherefore say, behold, I give unto him my covenant of peace.
Now the Lord is with Eleazar right now and blessing Salakia. The Lord is with Phinehas right now and is blessing Phinehas right now for doing the Lord's work, for loving the Lord first, for being a good brother and for being a good brother to all of Israel. Keep going.
Verse 13. And he shall have it, and his seed after him, even the covenant of an everlasting priesthood.
And his reward for being zealous to the Lord, for being a zealot for the Lord, for loving God and being a real brother, was that his seed, his sons, will forever be in the priesthood. Keep going.
Because he was zealous for his power.
For he was zealous to serve the Lord. He was willing to punish his own people for breaking and disobeying the Lord's commandments. Keep going.
And made an atonement for the children of Israel.
And because of the actions of Phinehas, an atonement for all the sins of Israel was made between us and the Lord. Because of the actions of Phinehas. Because Phinehas loved the Lord so much, because Phinehas obeyed the Lord, because he loved his brothers and sisters so much, his one action was able to atone for all the sins of Israel and save Israel from complete destruction. Keep going.
Verse 14. Now the name of the Israelite that was slain.
Now this is the name of that unbrotherly Israelite man that was put to death by Phinehas, who decided to sleep and love a heathen woman while his people were being put to death for loving heathen women and loving their gods. Keep going.
Even that was slain with the Midianitish woman was Zimri.
So Zimri was the name of the brother who loved heathens more than he loved his own people. He loved heathens more than loving our God. And he was put to death for it. Keep going.
The son of Salom, a prince of a chief house among the Simeonites.
And he wasn't just some regular brother. This man was a prince from the chief house of the house of Simeon. And this prince decided to do the most unbrotherly thing, and that was love a heathen woman, have sex with a heathen woman, while his people were being put to death for doing the same exact thing, for loving the gods of the heathens. Keep going.
Verse 15. And the name of the Midianitish woman that was slain was Cosby.
Was who?
Cosby.
Some disgusting name, right? Keep going.
The daughter of Zur. He was head over a people and of a chief house in Midian.
So this heathen woman that our brother loved so much came from, let's just say she came from royalty. So this Israelite man who came from a very prominent family of Israel decided that it would be okay for him to sleep with a heathen woman because she was from another prominent family of a heathen tribe. Lord, was he mistaken? He was put to death like any other man of Israel that slept and loved the heathens. Right? Keep going.
Verse 16. And the Most High spake unto Moses, saying, verse 17, vex the Midianites and smite them.
And do what?
And smite them.
Keep going.
Verse 18, for they vex you with their wives, wherewith they have beguiled you in the matter of Peor, and in the matter of Cosbi, the daughter of a prince of Midian, their sister, which was slain in the day of the plague for Peor's sake.
So the Lord told Moses to go kill these Midianites for what they have done. Go kill these Midianites for seducing our men, for seducing our people, for getting Israel to worship the gods of their people and stop worshiping our Lord. Stop worshiping our power. Right? This is how we built back our brotherhood. By coming together on one accord and doing what the Lord says to do. Right? Let me see if there's any questions on this. Okay, no questions on YouTube. Check the Facebook. Facebook is good. Any questions in the room on this topic? On this the story? No? Okay. All right, let's drop that. Let's go to 1 Kings chapter 11. Because loving these heathens will destroy us. It would destroy our brotherhood. It would destroy our sisterhood. It would lead us into a broken nation, which is what we're about to read right now in 1 Kings chapter 11.
The book of 1 Kings, chapter 11, verse 1. But King Solomon,
Who?
But King Solomon,
We all know about King Solomon, right? The wisest king to live in Israel before Christ came, right? We all know the stories of Solomon, how wise he was, how great he was, right? But King Solomon, keep going.
loved many strange women.
What did he do?
Loved many strange women.
King Solomon loved white women. King Solomon loved Chinese women, Japanese women. King Solomon loved women from Egypt, from Ghana, from Ethiopia, from the Congo. King Solomon loved Italian women, French women, Russian women. King Solomon loved Aboriginal women. King Solomon loved women from Iraq and Iran. King Solomon loved women from Persia, right, and Pakistan. He loved many strange women. Keep going.
Together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonianites, and Hittites.
And giving you examples of all the different heathen women that King Solomon loved. Keep going.
Verse 2. Of the nations concerning which the Most High said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go into them.
The Lord told us that we should not do what?
Go into them.
Solomon loved all these heathen women that the Lord told us not to love. Solomon loved all the heathen women that the Lord told us not to have any dealings with. King Solomon loved all these heathen women that God told us to stay away from. God told us to love our women, to love our men. God told us for a Black, Hispanic, and Native American man to love a Black, Hispanic, and Native American woman. And that's it. Keep going.
Neither shall they come in unto you.
Let's read that again.
Neither shall they come in unto you.
And we weren't supposed to allow these heathen women to marry our sons. We weren't allowed to have these heathen men love our daughters. Keep going.
For surely they will turn away your heart.
For what?
For surely they will turn away your heart.
Just like what we read in Numbers chapter 25. Keep going.
After their gods.
They, just like it's what? Just like what happened in Numbers chapter 25, we love these heathen women. These heathen women got our men and our people to worship their fake gods. These heathen women got our people to turn our hearts away from serving the Lord and serve their fake gods. Keep going.
Solomon clave unto these in love.
You know what happened? Solomon loved heathen women. And the consequence of that was Solomon loved the gods of these heathen women who he loved so much. Keep going.
Verse 3. And he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines. And his wives turned away his heart.
And all these, now keep in mind, the 700 wives, princesses, and concubines, not all of them were heathen. They were Israel too. Right? But since Solomon loved heathen women as heathen women, it opened the floodgates for Israel to love heathen women and to love their gods. And what happens when we love their gods? Our daughters grow up loving the gods of Christianity, loving the gods of Catholicism, loving the gods of Buddhism, right? Because the gates were open to love these people. When we love a heathen race of people, we open the doorways to loving what they love, which is their fake gods. So because Solomon loved these heathen women, right? They turned away his heart from serving God. Solomon's mind was no longer focused on obeying God's statutes, commandments, and laws. It was now focused and redirected into loving fake gods, gods that have no power. Keep going.
Verse 4. For it came to pass, when Solomon was old, that his wives turned away his heart after other gods.
And when Solomon got old, these women got Solomon to stop loving the Most High. These women, the love for these heathen women got taken advantage of in Solomon's old age. Because now they got Solomon doing backflips for the gods of their people. These heathen gods. Keep going.
And his heart was not perfect with the Most High.
And his heart wasn't perfect anymore. Solomon's mind wasn't fixated on obeying the laws, statutes, and commandments of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They were no longer fixated or focused or honed in on obeying the laws of God, the power of Israel. His love for these heathen women was used as a key to open a doorway to serve other gods, the gods of these heathen women. Keep going.
His power, as was the heart of David, his father. Verse 5. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians.
Because Solomon loved heathen women like the Zidonians, what did Solomon do?
Went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians.
Because King Solomon loved the heathen women of the Zidonians, he started to worship Ashtoreth, the goddess of these heathen people that he loved so much. Keep going.
And after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites.
Because King Solomon loved these Japanese women so much, he went after their god Milcom. What kind of name is that? He went after this fake god called Milcom, the god that the ancient Japanese people used to worship. Right? Keep going.
Verse 6. And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Most High.
Solomon did what?
Did evil in the sight of the Most High.
Because King Solomon loved heathen women more than he loved his own people, he did what?
Did evil in the sight of the Most High.
Because King Solomon didn't no longer have brotherhood and sisterhood, he loved the heathens more. What happened?
He did evil in the sight of the Most High.
He committed abominations and sins and trespasses, evils in the sight of the Lord. Keep going.
And went not fully after the Lord, as did David.
And he no longer served the Lord with all his heart, with all his mind, with every fiber in his being, because he loved heathen women. And these heathen women got him to love their gods instead of loving his own God, instead of loving his own people, instead of having real brotherhood, real sisterhood, and casting these heathens out. Right? Keep going.
His father. Verse 7. Then did Solomon build an high place for Chemosh.
What?
Then did Solomon build an high place for Chemosh.
Salakia. What verse did you just read?
Verse 7.
Sorry, read that again, Bubba Shah.
Then did Solomon build an high place for Chemosh,
Keep going.
the abomination of Moab.
Because King Solomon loved Chinese women, he did what?
Build an high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab.
Because King Solomon loved Chinese women, he built a high place, an altar for the fake god of the Chinese people, Chemosh. Keep going.
And the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abomination of the children of Ammon.
And he built, because he loved the women of Ammon, the heathen women of Ammon, he ended up building a place of worship for their fake god, Molech. Keep going.
Verse 8. And likewise did he for all his strange wives.
For his what?
For all his strange wives.
Because he loved his strange wives, because he loved heathen women, because he did not love Black, Hispanic, and Native American women, he built places of worship for all these fake gods because he loved the heathen women. He loved them. He loved Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Filipino, women from Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, women from Croatia, women from Azerbaijan, Bulgaria, Italy, France, right? He loved the women from the Sudan and Ethiopia, right? He loved the women from the United Emirates, right? He loved all these heathen women. And these heathen women got King Solomon to stop loving God and to start loving their fake gods. Keep going.
Which burnt incense and sacrifice unto their gods.
And he did abominable things. Keep going.
Verse 9. And the Most High was angry with Solomon because his heart was turned from the Most High's power of Israel.
And the Lord, just like in Numbers chapter 25, became angry with Solomon, just like he was angry with Israel. Because we decided to love heathens more than loving ourselves. We decided to love heathens more than loving God and keeping his commandments. We decided that we didn't want brotherhood and sisterhood in our nation. We wanted to love these heathens. Keep going.
Which had appeared unto him twice.
Which what?
Which had appeared unto him twice.
Imagine being able to speak directly to God through an angel. Not once, but twice. No one else was able to do that except for a few men before Solomon. Like Moses. Right? Here you are having the power speak to you, and you still love heathens more. Keep going.
Verse 10, and had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods.
And the Lord told him straight up, you're not supposed to go worship other gods. You're not supposed to go loving other gods. You're not supposed to be burning incense to fake gods. You're not supposed to be giving sacrifices to fake gods. Keep going.
But he kept not that which the Most High commanded.
The Lord commanded Solomon, all of Israel, to not love heathen women and to only love the women of our people. But look, King Solomon loved heathen women. The Lord told all of Israel to only worship him and not worship the gods of all the other heathens. And look what happened. Keep going.
Verse 11, wherefore the Most High said unto Solomon, for as much as this is done of thee,
because you've done all this evil, because you decided to love heathen women and get Israel to love heathen women when I told you not to. When I told you not to love fake gods and you decided to love fake gods and get Israel to sin with you and love fake gods. Even though I told you not to worship them, not to build altars, not to build high places for these fake gods that belong to these heathens, you still did it. Because you did all of this, keep going.
and thou hast not kept my covenant,
And you destroyed the covenant I made with your forefathers. Go ahead.
and my statutes,
And you don't obey the commandments that I've given you. Go ahead, up.
which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee.
Do what?
Rend the kingdom from
I'm
thee.
going to take the kingdom from you, Solomon. You will no longer, you and your descendants will no longer rule Israel. Keep going.
And will give it to thy servant.
And I'm going to give it to your servants. You will no longer have the authority of this kingdom over Israel because of this wickedness that you've done. I'm going to give it to your servants. Keep going.
Verse 12, notwithstanding in thy days, I will not do it for David, thy father's sake, but I will rend it out of the hand of thy son.
But don't worry, Solomon, because King David, your father, always loved me, always followed after me, didn't love heathen women, didn't serve the gods of the heathen women that he loved, because he didn't love heathen women. Because of King David, your father, I'm not going to take the kingdom from you right now. When you die and the kingdom gets passed to your son, that's when I will destroy the kingdom of Israel. That's when I will split it. Keep going.
Verse 13, howbeit I will not rend away all the kingdom, but will give one tribe to thy son, for David my servant's sake.
I'm going to split the kingdom and give one portion to your son out of respect for King David, because he loved me so much. Keep going.
And for Jerusalem's sake, which I have chosen. Verse 14.
And he was going to give the other portion of the kingdom of Israel to another Israelite. They won't. No one would rule the kingdoms together anymore. It's going to be split. Right? This is how brotherhood is destroyed. This is how sisterhood is destroyed. It all starts, as Mapatza stated earlier, the lust for heathens. Us wanting to love heathens led us to loving their gods, worshiping their gods, which caused the kingdom to split, which caused the kingdom of Israel to be destroyed, which caused all of Israel to be brought into captivity time and time again. Because we want to love heathens. We want to love Asian women. You know, we think that Chinese and Japanese box is exotic for some reason. We want to love African women because they got big butts, right? We want to love white women because we want to be like the white man so bad. We want what the white man has, because the white man rules the earth right now. We want their prize. We want what they hold valuable. Right? Loving heathen has destroyed brotherhood and sisterhood throughout this Bible. Loving heathens is why brotherhood and sisterhood amongst blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are destroyed today in 2021. And it's clear. You can go step out to Harlem, Brooklyn, Yonkers, Spring Valley, Pomona, Haverstraw, Staten Island, right? You can go to Beacon and Poughkeepsie and Nanuet, and you can go to a store that's owned by Arabs who will sell you Lucy's, who will sell you cigarettes, who will sell you roll-ups to further destroy us because you love them so much. You allow heathens to disrespect you because you love them so much. I'll give an example that happened to me recently. Black, Hispanic, and Native American men and women love heathens so damn much that we allow them to call us niggas. Because these heathens see us refer to ourselves as niggas, and we call them niggas, they think it's okay to call us niggas. And yesterday I had to look this Arab guy that owns the corner store next to my house dead in his eye, because he thought it was okay for him to call me a nigga. And he did it ever so slightly. He did it ever so quietly, like he wasn't sure if it was okay to call me a nigga. He said it with the lowest. He was saying everything else in a loud voice. Oh, that's 1095, blah, 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 blah. I told him he should give it to me for free. And he said, no, you got to pay for it. And then in the lowest possible voice, I almost didn't hear him. He said, come on, nigga. I stared at him with the only death stare I could ever give someone. He stood quiet, gave me my bags, and looked down. That's because these heathens, we love them so much that we allow them to call us these bywords. We allow them to be so comfortable with us that they can refer to us as slaves. Because we love heathens so damn much, where we hate ourselves and love them more. Let's drop that. Let's go to the book of Ezra, chapter 9. With the chat. Yo, when that heathen said that to me, I just looked at him like, man, if it wasn't for the laws of America, I would have snatched your soul from across that counter. I was taken by surprise, like, how dare you? And that's because of this. That's because we love heathens so much. We want to call Arabs in the deli store ox like they're our brothers. They're not our brothers. We want to call white people our brothers from a different mother when they're not our brothers. We want to do the African dances and all that crap because Africans look like us, but they're not us. They're not our brothers. Loving heathens has destroyed us, has destroyed brotherhood, has destroyed sisterhood. All right, let's get it. Ezra chapter 9. Let's start at verse 1.
Ezra, right?
Ezra, yeah.
I don't count. The book of Ezra, chapter 9, verse 1. Now when these things were done, the princes came to me, saying, the people of Israel and the priests and the Levites have not separated themselves from the people of the land.
And here we are again, loving heathens, wanting to be around them, wanting to hang out with the Arab at the deli store and let him call us niggas and let him call us spics because we show him so much love, because we go in there and we joke around with him. We go there and we beg him to give us a Lucy and we'll pay him back. Because we love heathens so much. And here we are again. We can't separate ourselves from these disgusting heathens because we love heathens so much. There's nothing great about Arabs. There's nothing great about white people who come from caves and eat food out of the skulls of their grandparents. There's nothing great about loving Africans who put their face up a cow's vagina and drink its piss. There's nothing great about it. There's nothing great about looking like Asians who have Down syndrome. There's nothing great about it. We need to stop loving these heathens and start loving our brothers and sisters. Keep going.
Doing according to their abomination.
Doing what?
Doing according to their nation.
And we want to smoke like the Arabs. We want to smoke hookah because the Arabs smoke hookah and we love the Arabs. We want to worship the Ankh and Kemet because the ancient Egyptians were the greatest Africans. We want to dye our hair blonde and get blue and green contacts because we love white people so much. There's nothing great about white people. There's nothing wonderful about Asians. There's nothing marvelous about Africans. There's nothing special about Arabs. The only special people on this earth, because God said that they were special, was the people of Israel, were the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. We are the only special people. That's why every heathen that we love wants to be like us. Well, we want to be like these disgusting heathens that we love. Keep going.
Even of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, and the Jebusites, and the Ammonites, the Moabites, the Egyptians, and the Amorites. Verse 2, for they have taken of their daughters for themselves.
They what?
They have taken of their daughters for themselves.
Because we love their women so much, for some strange women. You know, black, Hispanic, and Native American women have wonderful shaped bodies. You know, Black, Hispanic, and Native American women cook the best, right? You know, Black, Hispanic, and Native American women, they are the best women on the face of the earth. Why would we need to love African women? Why would we want to love Asian women? Why would we want to love white women and Arab women when Black, Hispanic, and Native American women, you are the best women? You are the only women that Black, Hispanic, and Native American men are allowed to be with, and vice versa. Keep going.
And for their sons.
And for the what?
And for their sons.
Why would you allow your son to marry a woman who's not Black, Hispanic, or Native American? Why would you allow your daughter to marry a man who is not Black, Hispanic, or Native American? Keep going.
So that the holy seed have mingled themselves with the people of those lands.
The what?
With the people of those lands.
No, before that. Read before that.
So that the holy seed.
The what?
The holy seed.
Listen, Black, Hispanic, and Native American men have what?
Holy seed.
And we're only supposed to give this what?
Holy seed.
To Black, Hispanic, and Native American women. Black, Hispanic, and Native American women should only get what?
Holy seed.
From Black, Hispanic, and Native American men. Because we have what?
Holy seed.
And we're not supposed to give this
holy seed
to any other disgusting race of people on this earth. White women don't deserve
holy seed.
African women don't deserve
holy seed.
Asian women don't deserve
holy seed.
Arab women don't deserve
holy seed.
But Black, Hispanic, and Native American women, they deserve
holy seed.
And that's it. We're supposed to love our women. We're supposed to love our men. Because history has shown when we love heathens, it destroys us as a people. When we love heathens, God punishes us because we want to worship their gods. Listen, these heathens that we love, they don't deserve our what?
Holy seed.
Keep going.
Have mingled themselves with the people of those lands.
We polluted our what?
Holy seed.
With the people that live on this earth. We polluted our holy seed, our bloodline, our lineage by loving heathens, by marrying heathens, by having children with heathens. We do our what?
Holy seed.
A disadvantage when we give our what?
Holy seed.
To these heathen women. Our children end up growing up looking like half Chinese, half white, half African, not being able to speak our own language because we gave what?
Holy seed.
To the people of this land that are not us. Keep going.
Yea, the hand of the princes and rulers have been chief in this trespass.
The ruling class of our people, the ones who lead us, the ones who we're supposed to follow, have given their holy seed to heathens, have shown us that it's okay to give our holy seed to heathens. And that's wrong. These Black, Hispanic, and Native American pastors, preachers, religious leaders, politicians, celebrities, athletes have led us down a path that is wrong. And if it wasn't for commanding General YAHANNA, who comes from a what?
Holy seed.
That held on to this truth and to help raise up what?
Holy seed.
To spread this truth so that way what?
Holy seed.
Of Israel can prosper again, we would still be lost. We would still love heathens. But thank God, Barakatah Yahweh Yahweh Shai, for this truth, for the I.S.U.P.K, for commanding General YAHANNA, for opening up this book and teaching us that our holy seed is not supposed to be defiled with loving heathens. It's only supposed to be mingled with our brothers and sisters to keep our nation strong, to grow brotherhood, to make sisterhood prosper. So that way we don't disobey our God. Keep going.
Verse 3. And when I heard this thing, I rent my garment and my mantle and plucked off the hair of my head and of my beard and sat down astonished.
And listen, Prophet Ezra, he was in disbelief. He could not believe that we have kept falling for this snare after snare after snare. It's the same snare, it's the same trick, the same trap. We keep falling for loving heathens. There's nothing beautiful about heathen women. There's nothing to be desired by heathen men. Why do our men love heathen women? Why do our women love heathen men? Ezra's astonished. He tore his clothes, ripping off the hair on his head and his beard. Sat there astonished because he can't understand why we keep loving heathens. Because loving heathens only leads to loving their gods, which only leads to our God punishing us, destroying us. The death of Israel. It's been proven time and time again. Keep going.
Verse 4. They were assembled unto me, everyone that trembled at the word of the God of Israel.
And listen, here in the I.S.U.P.K, from the generals down to the troopers, we tremble at the words of God of Israel. Keep going.
Because of the transgression.
Because of the what?
Of the transgression.
Because we want to mix our holy seed with these heathens. Keep going.
Of those that have been carried away. And I sat astounded until the evening sacrifice. Verse 5. And at the evening sacrifice, I arose up from my heaviness, and having rent my garment and my mantle, I fell upon my knees and spread out my hands unto the Most High, my power.
And Ezra had no choice but to pray to the Lord, to beg the Lord, to give him some kind of instruction like Moses had. Keep going.
Verse 6. And said, Oh my God, oh my power, I am ashamed and blush to lift up my face to thee.
I'm embarrassed to lift up my face because of how much sinning our people have done by loving these heathens. How much they've destroyed the brotherhood and sisterhood of Israel by loving these heathens. For how much disrespect that they have shown you by loving these heathens. Keep going.
My power for our iniquities are increased over our heads.
And we keep increasing our sins. We love the heathens. Then we let the heathens worship their gods. Then we allow them to teach us about their gods. Then we end up loving and worshiping their gods. Just iniquity on top of iniquity on top of iniquity on top of iniquity. Keep going.
And our trespass is grown up unto the heavens.
And we've just committed so much sin that it's just stacked on top of each other until it reached the heaven. It's an absurd amount. Our sins are piled high because it starts with loving heathens. Then it leads to loving their gods. Then it leads to being gay. Then it leads to smoking, using drugs, murdering each other. Keep going.
Verse 7. Since the days of our fathers have we been in a great trespass until this day. And for our iniquities have we, our kings and our priests, been delivered into the hand of the kings of the lands.
We our rulers and our people have been delivered, have been willingly given over to these heathens where they control us. They have power over us. All because we love the heathens. Keep going.
To the sword.
The what?
To the sword.
And these heathens that we love so much, they put us to death by giving us cigarettes, by giving us homosexuality. Keep going.
To captivity.
By forcing us to work for cheap labor in their jails, being underpaid in their corporations. Keep going.
And to a spoil.
And we just go wasting away. All our potential of ruling this earth gets wasted away because we want to love heathens. We want to let heathens rule over us. Keep going.
And to confusion of face.
And because we love heathens so much, our children don't even look like real Israelites. Our children look half Chinese, half Asian. They look half Italian. Keep going.
As it is this day.
Just like it is in this day. You have Israelite men marrying and sleeping with Asian women. The children end up coming out, maybe having the skin complexion of their father, but looking like they have Down syndrome because of their Asian mother. It's terrible. Just like it happened back then, it's happening this day. Because we love heathens. We love heathens more than we love our brothers and sisters. Keep going.
Verse 8. And now, for a little space, grace hath been shown from the Most High our power to leave us a remnant to escape.
That's right. And that's right here in the I.S.U.P.K.
Right.
If it wasn't for the Lord to show just a little grace, we wouldn't have the men that came before us. We wouldn't have Commander General YAHANNA. We wouldn't have the I.S.U.P.K. where the remnant can escape and grow again and wake our people up again. Keep going.
And to give us a nail in his holy place.
And this school, the I.S.U.P.K, is the nail in the Lord's holy place. Because we're doing what the Lord wants us to do. We're speaking against what the Lord wants us to speak against. We're teaching our people that we need to love each other, that we need to have brotherhood and sisterhood, and we need to love each other and not love these heathens, that we need to love God, obey God. Keep going.
That our power may lighten our eyes and give us a little reviving in our bondage. Verse 9.
Stop, you can stop it there. You see, Israel, we've been punished for far too long for loving heathen women, for loving heathen men, for loving their disgusting cultures, for loving how they cook their food. We need to stop loving heathens, because loving heathens has destroyed us as a nation. Loving heathens has brothers murdering other brothers. Loving heathens has brothers prostituting our sisters. Loving heathens has had our sisters killing our brothers because they have more than one woman. Loving heathens has caused the Lord to send plagues over all Israel. And it has to stop. And here in the I.S.U.P.K, we will never love heathens. And we will always love our brothers. We will always love our sisters. We will always treat our brothers and sisters like the Lord commanded us to. And we will always love the Lord first. And with that, before we go, let me just check the chat real quick. YouTube looks good. Facebook looks okay. Okay. All right, Ephraim. Ephraim from Acuna, Mexico, shalom, brother. Tamika, shalom, sis. Martin, shalom. Esther, shalom. Danisha, shalom. All right. All right, with that, I'm Priest and Officer Shagapan. Joining me, helping me hold class down was Priest and Officer 500, YAHANNA, Ya'Allah. And I pass over to Priest and Prophet YAHANNA, Ya'Allah. Clap of Israel. Shalom. You can kill it.
Shalom, Israel.